Did you know there's a city in America where people live longer than almost anywhere else on Earth? It's not a mountain retreat or a wealthy suburb. It's Loma Linda, a small city about 60 miles east of Los Angeles. Here, people routinely live longer, healthier lives. Not because of fancy supplements, biohacks, or elite gyms, but because of faith, food, friends, and simple daily routines. This is the fourth video in this series and the third Blue Zone. In this video I'll show you the real reasons Loma Linda matters, the exact daily habits people actually practice, what they eat, how they move, how they rest, and the specific cultural practices that glue it all together. Stay until the end and I'll give you 3 small, repeatable actions you can start this week. No gimmicks, no fluff. Why Loma Linda matters. Loma Linda sits in the smoggy orbit of greater Los Angeles. Freeways, strip malls, fast food signs everywhere. It's not a hidden retreat. And yet, right here, a longevity culture took root, largely among Seventh-day Adventists, and researchers took notice. Researchers launched one of the largest long-term lifestyle studies ever run in the US, the Adventist Health Study. AHS-1 followed roughly 34,000 California Adventists over age 25 from 1974 to 1988. AHS-2 expanded the work to nearly 97,000 Adventists in 2002. What that research uncovered eventually put Loma Linda on a very short list. Around the world, scientists have identified just 5 blue zones, places where people live the longest, healthiest lives on Earth, like Sardinia in Italy and Okinawa in Japan, what I went over in my last videos. Loma Linda is the only one in the United States, making it one of the top longevity regions in the world, and the numbers are worth pausing on. A 30-year-old Adventist man in California lives about 7.3 years longer than the average Californian white male. A 30-year-old Adventist woman lives about 4.4 years longer than the average Californian white female. And among vegetarian Adventists, that gap grows even larger. Roughly 9.5 extra years for men, and over 6.1 years for women. Early findings showed massive wins elsewhere too. Lung cancer rates were tiny, almost nobody smoked, and rates of heart disease, diabetes, and many cancers were far lower than in the general population. These weren't genetic outliers, they weren't unusually wealthy. They were living modern American lives, but with very different daily habits. If it's not genetics and it's not money, what are these people doing differently? Next we'll break down the lifestyle basics, food, movement, rest, and the small daily rituals that quietly make the biggest difference. Lifestyle, diet, movement, rhythm. So first, diet. Loma Linda's eating pattern is simple, plant forward. Roughly half of local Adventists are vegetarian or rarely eat meat, and the data shows it matters. In the Adventist studies, non-vegetarian Adventists had about twice the risk of heart disease compared to vegetarian Adventists, especially men, but also younger and middle-aged women. Part of the reason these habits last is culture. Seventh-day Adventist practice discourages smoking, alcohol consumption, or eating foods deemed to be unclean in the Bible, such as pork. In fact, the religion discouraged the consumption of meat in general, as well as rich foods, caffeinated drinks, and even stimulating condiments and spices. But it's not just beliefs. The town supports the choices. Right across from the hospital, you've got Loma Linda Market, stocked with soy beef jerky, egg-free ice cream, and more than 80 bins of various seeds and nuts. About a mile away is Clark's Nutrition Centre, another supermarket-size outlet for organic foods and supplements. When healthy options are the obvious default, good choices stop feeling exotic. Now the key diet takeaways. Nuts. Eating nuts at least 5 times a week was linked to about half the risk of heart disease. This held across ages, genders, and diet types. Legumes and tomatoes. Adventists who ate meat had about a 65% higher risk of colon cancer, while regular legumes, beans, peas, were associated with a 30 to 40% reduction in colon cancer risk. Women who ate tomatoes 3 to 4 times a week had about a 70% lower risk of ovarian cancer in the study. Researchers note sample size limits, but the signal was strong. And high tomato intake also seemed to lower prostate cancer risk in men. For pancreatic cancer, there was again a small sample size, but researchers did see that those who ate fruits and legumes had a much lower risk. Those who ate meat were at twice the risk of getting bladder cancer, and about 65% increase in the risk of getting ovarian cancer, Fraser said. Now on water, one striking and tentative finding. Men who drank 5 to 6 glasses of water per day had about a 60 to 70% lower risk of dying from a heart attack than men who drank much less. Researchers flagged it as promising and rechecked it in follow-up studies. Put simply, plants first, nuts often, water regularly, meat modestly, and skip processed junk. Repeat that for decades and it adds up. These aren't tiny gains. Dr. Fraser estimated a vegetarian pattern alone was associated with about 2 extra years of life. Regular nut consumption added another couple of years. And one of the biggest downstream effects was body weight. Lacto-ovo vegetarians averaged about 16 pounds lighter than non-vegetarians at the same weight. Vegans averaged about 30 pounds lighter. That lighter body weight ripples out into lower blood pressure, lower cholesterol, and less inflammation, all major drivers of aging. In short, the diet reshapes the body in ways that reduce disease risk. Eating rhythm, lighter evenings, consistent patterns. Many Adventists keep predictable meal patterns and eat lighter in the evenings. Some, like Dr. Ellsworth Walram, eat 2 modest meals, late morning and mid-afternoon. Rule of thumb: heavier earlier, lighter later. Over decades, that rhythm helps keep BMI down and energy steady. Movement: daily, moderate, varied. You don't need to train like an athlete. Loma Linda's advantage comes from modest but regular activity. Walking, gardening, cycling, chores. Dr. Fraser estimates physical activity accounts for an extra couple of years of life on average. The key is consistency, not intensity. To stay balanced, aim for 4 movement types: endurance, daily walks, cycling, swimming; strength, light weights, body weights, or manual chores; flexibility, stretching and mobility routines; and balance, simple standing/yoga moves to prevent falls. Think of Marge Jetton from the book A Centenarian, I'll touch on later. A mile power walking, a few miles on the bike, and 5-pound weight moves, repeated daily. Rest and recovery, the weekly sanctuary. One cultural habit that stands out is the 24-hour Sabbath, a weekly sanctuary from sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. For many Adventists, that's a guilt-free reset. Fewer screens, family meals, nature walks, worship, and rest. 52 times a year, that rhythm compounds into major stress relief. As Marge said, we used to go on long family walks on the Sabbath. You get to go on hikes, stop pushing. I think the Sabbath gives you peace, and that contributes to your health. Social life and volunteering. Purpose, not loneliness. Community is baked into everyday life. Volunteering, church groups, and neighbourly help make healthy behaviours normal and give people purpose. That social density, being needed and useful, is as important as diet or exercise. Marge collects magazines for seniors, runs errands for neighbours, and treats strangers like friends. Everyday service, that's longevity medicine. Some residents even volunteer abroad on multi-month missions, reinforcing purpose and connection. Modern threat, why this is impressive. All this happens beside freeways and fast food strips. The community resists those pressures by using faith, institutions, and local markets to make healthy choices the default. That's why researchers call it a replicable model. Ordinary habits protected and amplified by culture. So diet, movement, rest, and social connection explain most of the gains. But Loma Linda's deeper advantage isn't just what people do, it's how religion, ritual, and a unique medical culture reinforce those behaviours day after day. That's where the human stories live, and that's next. What's specific to Loma Linda? Faith, stories, and human proof. Diet and movement explain how people live longer. This section answers why a community inside Greater Los Angeles becomes one of the world's longevity hotspots. Short version: faith turned into social technology. Faith as a habit engine. Seventh-day Adventism here is more than theology. It's a system that turns good intentions into daily habits. Most people want to eat better or move more. Adventism provides the extra nudge that makes those intentions stick. As I said earlier, the church discourages smoking and alcohol, teaches modest eating, promotes Sabbath rest, and encourages service. These aren't abstract ideals, they're repeatable prompts that guide everyday behaviour for decades. As Dr. Daniel Giang, Vice President for Medical Administration at Loma Linda's University Medical Center says, being healthy has always been a fundamental part of the Adventist message. In Loma Linda, health isn't framed as vanity or self-optimization, it's spiritual discipline. Adventists believe the body is the temple of the Holy Spirit, and that impairing health also impairs clarity, judgment, and connection. That belief quietly shapes daily choices, what to eat, what to avoid, how to rest, and how to live, until healthy behaviours becomes automatic. Now a bit deeper on the Sabbath, a predictable reset. Pastor Randy Roberts calls it a sanctuary in time. That 24-hour stop is a weekly ritual people genuinely look forward to. For students and medical staff at LLU, it's a built-in decompress button. Do that 52 times a year for decades, and you don't just relax. You rebuild social ties, reduce chronic stress, and reinforce the patterns that keep people healthy. And again, a bit more on the American paradox. Loma Linda isn't remote or insulated like other blue zones. It sits inside a modern, fast food heavy region. Yet, outcomes are radically different because culture has made healthy options the default. Loma Linda shows you can build a blue zone inside modern life by building institutions, markets, and social norms that support healthy choices. No smoking, low alcohol culture. The invisible advantage. One advantage that's easy to miss, especially in America, is what isn't happening in Loma Linda. Smoking is rare. Alcohol is minimal or absent, not because of laws or campaigns, but because the culture quietly discourages it. Adventist teaching treats anything that clouds judgment or harms the body is something to avoid, and that belief becomes a social norm. In a country where smoking, drinking, and stress coping through substances are common, that absence matters. It removes two of the biggest accelerators of heart disease, cancer, and cognitive decline, without requiring constant self-control. Again, when the default choice is not to smoke and not to drink, decades of damage simply never accumulate. Medical culture and role models. Loma Linda's medical culture doesn't just study healthy living, it models it. The church's early embrace of preventative medicine became a practical framework for care. As Dr. Daniel Giang put it, what strengthened this health message was that it seemed to work. God wants us to be healthy. That conviction is lived by local clinicians. Ellsworth Warham is a clear example in the book. As a heart surgeon, he didn't change his habits because of a paper. He changed them because of what he saw on the operating table. He noticed a pattern. Smooth, clear arteries often belonged to vegetarian patients. Stiff, calcified arteries usually didn't. Warren was careful about the claim. It wasn't 100%, and he kept no formal statistics, but the pattern stayed with him. Seeing patients lose toes and feet to vascular disease made it real. That accumulation of evidence pushed him, gradually, to adopt a fully vegan diet in midlife. And Warren didn't retreat into rest. Well into his 90s, he was still gardening, doing heavy yard work, and building his own 8-foot-high wooden fence along a steep hillside, turning medical observation into lived proof. When doctors practice what they preach, health stops being merely advice and becomes culture. Human stories that make it real. Now this is becoming a long video, so I'm just going to read this for quickness. Marge Jetton. She's 100 and still moves like she's on a mission. A mile of power walking each morning, 6 to 8 miles on the exercise bike, light hand weights, and 6 glasses of water before breakfast. Her food is simple. Oatmeal, a raw fruit and veg salad, the occasional soy waffle, and she tends a courtyard garden full of tomatoes and herbs. She volunteers constantly, her motto, "A stranger is a friend we haven't met yet," and even served on 2 international missions. Marge is living proof that purpose, routine, and small daily habits add up. Next is Ellsworth Warham, as mentioned earlier. He was still assisting in heart surgery at 93. He followed a vegan diet, eats 2 modest meals a day, loves nuts and drinks lots of water. Outside the OR, he stayed active with gardening, yard work, and even building his own fence. For Warham, longevity wasn't about genetics or hacks. It was purpose, movement, and simple habits practiced every day. Next is the Mock family. This is how Loma Linda raises the next generation. The family is vegetarian. They served soy chicken sandwiches, fresh salads, and dried hibiscus for dessert for dinner while the researchers were at their house. The boys play sports and rehearse in the church youth band, and neighbours like the Giangs mentor them on schools and activities. Shared meals, music practice, volunteering, and church school normalise plant-forward eating, movement and service, so longevity habits begin in childhood. And there are dozens more: former nurses, teachers, physicians, choir directors and volunteers, neighbours in the 90s and 100s who lived nearby and stayed active. They're not outliers, they're a cluster. That density turns an abstract study into something believable. When your neighbour is 100, active and cheerful, it becomes easier to copy the habit. As Dr. Fraser put it, it's not that Adventists die of different things, it is just that they die later. Attitude, laughter, and meaning. This isn't joyless austerity. People laugh, volunteer, and find meaning in small things. Laughter relaxes blood vessels. Volunteering gives a reason to move and be social. Purpose plus routine plus community equals resilience. That emotional glue holds the other habits together. So, what's unique here? A faith-structured architecture that turns rules into nudges. A medical community that models the behaviour. Vivid human role models you can see and imitate. And a Sabbath that regularly resets stress. It's culture doing the heavy lifting. Next, I'll pull this all together and give you 3 practical changes you can start this week. Small moves that borrow directly from what actually works in Loma Linda. Purpose plus plants plus daily movement plus weekly reset plus nuts plus water plus community equals more healthy years. Quick recap. Move more. Daily, modest, repeatable. Make walking, gardening, and small strength work part of your day. Eat plants first, nuts, beans, fruit, whole grains, meat sparingly. Drink water, make 5 to 6 glasses a day a habit. It's a simple, low-cost win. Take a weekly sanctuary. Build a 24-hour reset into your week to lower stress and reconnect. Volunteer and stay connected. Purpose and friendship matter as much as protein. 3 things to start this week. Number 1, nuts. Have a handful 4 to 6 times this week. Plain, on their own, or on a salad. Number 2, water. Aim for 5 glasses today. 1 when you wake, 1 before each meal, and 1 mid-afternoon. Number 3, sanctuary. Pick one 24-hour block this week. Turn off work obligations and screens. Walk, cook a plant meal, call a friend, or volunteer. It's tempting to chase a single miracle fix. Loma Linda's lesson is humbler and better. Build days that matter. Feed your body real plants. Move gently and often. Take regular rest. And put your life inside friendship and purpose. Do that and you don't just add years to life, you add life to years. Which Loma Linda habit will you try this week? Nuts, more water, or a 24-hour sanctuary? Tell me which one and why in the comments. Next video we're heading to Costa Rica, a blue zone with a very different recipe for long life. Subscribe and turn notifications on so you don't miss it. If you learned something new, please like and subscribe to keep learning. If you know anyone who's interested in this kind of content, please share this to them as it really helps me out. If you want to watch any of my other videos in this series or the next video is out, then the playlist will be on screen now. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one. And remember, stay positive, even when it seems everything is against you.